Not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
Oh, yes. On this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most used and most dangerous and most effective strategies in communications. This is misdirection. And in crisis communications, this happens all the time. Misdirection is used almost on a daily basis.
District Attorney Fani, Fani, last name is Willis.
You can see it in the media all the time. It really relies on a media that, quite frankly, isn't too bright, and a media that's not focused on the truth, on accuracy, on factual information.
Facts and truth are matters of life and death. Misinformation, disinformation, delusions, and deceit can kill.
And a media that is not focused on truth and instead focused on infotainment and celebrity and nonsense, because that nonsense makes money. Sensational nonsense gets web traffic.
You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
The real problem happens when there's serious subject matter that needs to be investigated and needs to be confirmed, and people who want the sensationalism over the fact-finding and the truth don't bother to confirm facts, and then, of course, broadcast things that are not factual in the name of web traffic and click-through rates. What gets you that traffic is posting quickly and posting first. That's when this became a very big problem, because people are rushing to get content up before it is fact-checked. And in that world of rapid posting, where everybody wants to post the information first and very little fact-checking, people have figured out, people who do misinfo and disinfo have figured out, liars have figured out, that all you have to do is flood the box with misinformation and disinformation and then run a misdirection.
And good morning. We are interrupting programming for some breaking news here. I'm Chris Raggi. New York Attorney General Tish James about to make a big announcement on the results of her office's investigation.
And yes, I am saying that the Tish James announcement against Governor Cuomo was a flood the zone. She flooded the zone with a big report. Do you think anybody actually read that before they reported it? Of course not. Let's go over some misdirections that are going on right now. In New Mexico, the Russ case, the person who actually pulled the trigger is not the person that anyone's talking about. We're talking about a 24-year-old girl, really, who was the armorer on set, who wasn't even at the scene at the moment when it happened. And really, the media has completely focused on her, talking about drug use, talking about how people were complaining about her on set. I mean, basically, the entire thing was focused on her, even before the trial began. That is misdirection. Obviously, the Fani Willis case is one big, massive misdirection. One of the biggest you'll ever see. We go from investigating and adjudicating a president of the United States to talking about who Fani Willis is dating. What?
That's a lie.
That's another. If they've ever taken him anywhere.
And I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So your security team has never taken
My
Mr. Wade
security
anywhere.
team has never taken Mr. Wade from any place where I have lived and brought him here. Never. Not once. Not ever.
And yeah, I know a lot of people criticized her style on the stand. I loved every second of it. She should be mad. This could never happen to a male district attorney. Never in 1,000 years. And by the way, where are all those people who write about misogyny all the time? Where's Rebecca Traister? Where's Kat Tenbarge? Where's Maura Donegan? Where are all these people when it's a black woman? I'm just asking. I thought I would ask. But all good. This is why we build our own platforms.
Tonight, the breaking news. A sitting Democratic governor admitting tonight he is in the photo you're about to see. Okay. You see a person in blackface next to a person in a black robe. And then as we zoom out, you see the name Ralph Shearer Northam. One of those people is the Democratic governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, and he admits that one of those people is him.
And I got a really close look at misdirection almost exactly 5 years ago. In Virginia, I happened to be doing some comms work for the lieutenant governor of Virginia, who almost became the governor of Virginia because of a scandal involving the governor, Ralph Northam. Then all of a sudden, in what was really kind of a misdirection and flood the zone at the same time, all of a sudden, there's a Me Too allegation. Lieutenant governor says, okay, bring it on. Let's have some prosecutors investigate. Let's have the cops in here.
My attorney has, at my direction, requested that the prosecutors in Boston, Massachusetts, and in Durham, North Carolina, launch an investigation of these allegations, and I've offered my full cooperation. I will answer any and all questions, and I am willing to do so under oath and under penalty of perjury.
Everybody disappears. His accusers vanish off the face of the earth. Isn't it amazing how that happens? Nobody goes to the police, and to this day, 5 years later, nobody's investigated. The media hasn't investigated. The police haven't investigated. Though I will say in 2023, the FBI did show up. Now, that was interesting for everybody. Who didn't show up, of course, is the New York Times. They were so into it when it was a negative story for Justin Fairfax. Then, of course, they disappeared into thin air. The minute it looked like, wow, we might have been completely wrong about this story. And, of course, they've disappeared ever since. Because, of course, the New York Times would rather report the wrong information quickly than to wait and investigate and get it right and then report it, particularly if you're dealing with a black male. I don't care what anyone says, particularly if you're dealing with a black male. How do I know that? Well, a year after Justin was falsely accused and the New York Times rushed it into the paper, Joe Biden was accused of, I'll say essay, but I'll put it on the screen because once again, YouTube punishes creators that talk about serious topics. That's why I'm not using the words, not because I want to be evasive. Actually, I like being direct. But, and so, of course, Biden gets accused and the New York Times has a completely different way of dealing with it. So on top of the fact that the media can't really deal with the flooding of the zone and, of course, the information coming in and being able to have the discipline to check before publication, there's a political element to their decision-making as well. And, of course, there's always been a racial element. And all the stuff we heard when it was Justin, that there didn't need to be due process and we had to quickly report on it because it was so important, all that changed when Joe Biden was accused because, of course, Joe Biden had the advantage of being a white male.
Here's the thing. I have complete respect for the whole Me Too movement. I have 4 daughters and 1 son. And there's a lot of excitement around the idea that women will be heard and be listened to. There is also due process. And the fact that Joe Biden is Joe Biden.
Totally different things. We all of a sudden started hearing about due process. Sure as hell didn't hear that when Justin was accused. This is its own video, of course. It starts with the story of misdirection. The governor of Virginia got into a scandal, Ralph Northam, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes an allegation against the lieutenant governor that blocks him from being governor of Virginia. It was a huge misdirection.
What does still nag at me, though, was my failure to fully appreciate at the time just how susceptible we had become to lies and conspiracy theories.
Last person I want to talk about is Marilyn Mosby. She was the state's attorney, district attorney in Baltimore. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after prosecuting a very controversial case that involved prosecuting police, she suddenly ends up in a very misdirecting, I would say a career misdirecting scandal.
Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is guilty of 2 counts of perjury. Tonight, she's waiting to learn her sentence.
She was indicted in January of last year on 4 federal charges. Mosby still faces a trial for 2 counts of making false statements on loan applications. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox.
Loan applications to take out money from her own accounts. Yeah, this requires a deeper dive. Very strange situation with Marilyn Mosby. I have a hard time believing that it's a coincidence that she tried to prosecute a bunch of cops on a wrongful death situation, and then all of a sudden is prosecuted a short time later. It's actually very rare that you see a district attorney prosecuted, period. The most important thing to know about misdirection is that it always happens for a reason. And timing should be very carefully paid attention to. That is why the Fani Willis thing, again, is unprecedented and strange. At any rate, this video has been long enough. I will be on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Thursday night to talk about the State of the Union, and we're probably going to go from like 7 o'clock to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then.
And so when you feel you have to report on something that is false, but was said by a figure of consequence, you start with a true statement, Then you sandwich the lie into the middle part, and then you end with a true statement. And that is a better way of reporting on disinformation.